Okay, McGrain. Okay, our stream is being recorded. Very good. We are. Hello.
Hello.
Sorry for being a bit late. I was trying to get uh, set up with streaming software that allows us to go live on both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. But it turned out to be a lot more complicated than they said it was going to be. So that's what I was trying to do to get it set up and use it right away because I was, but it didn't work out. All right. Hello, Beena.
This
Hello.
is hello, and good morning. Good morning to everyone, of course, whoever is watching us live and will watch us recorded. Welcome to another live. It is going to be a bit shorter, but no matter what, it is going to be. We tried our best to be on time, but it is again coming back to the same central column of that as appropriate. Still was very diligent and doing all those things, and but still sometimes things are not as smooth as you supposed to them that ought to be, but it's okay. You don't need to get panic because when we are trying our best, when we have skills, when we are applying all those things, which means that we are trying to be impeccable. And once you are doing that, your conscience is clear. You don't feel any stress at, oh, the embarrassment and the awkwardness and the like, okay, apologizing and all that. It's not. Yes, of course, you need to be considerate about others that okay, who have been waiting, or your own things that you want to be on time. Yes, so we say that okay, yes, I'm sorry for delay and all that. But it is not like really getting like, oh, it's the end of the world. And it can be applied to anything in life. Once your conscience is clear, then there is no regrets, no setbacks, nothing. When we do our things and then we accept that universe is doing something else right now, it was appropriate for us, and this is okay, it has been done now, and we are here. We will
Yes,
be more thorough,
yes.
and we will do that. That's it.
And when you say we, what do you mean by we?
Me, Syl, Grain, Universe,
And Norma.
and Norma. Yes.
Norma's here. That's why I was grinning so because Norma's here too. Norma, I know we were a bit late, sorry. And I was so trying to get the software working, I didn't have time to message you and say, sorry, we're a bit slow. I asked Beena to make a post, but I don't know if you saw that or not. So yes, I'm sorry that I couldn't tell you earlier, that you sat there waiting and that. So sorry about that. Couldn't be helped. Couldn't be helped, unfortunately. I'm trying to go live stream on both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. If you go via Zoom only, it's either or, one or the other. But there is streaming software that you can get, which I did get, that allows you to do both. But it's supposed to be simple, but it wasn't simple. So I have to do a lot of setting up with stream keys and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I'll have that ready for tomorrow. And well, I'll maybe test it out later today as well. So if you see a random live, it's just me testing. I'll say. Um, but because what this software will also allow me to do, it will allow me to stream. Apparently, when I do the interviews, I can stream that from my side, even though I'm not using my Zoom. Then I'm using still Zoom. So then I'll be able to do that. Well, we'll see. All sorts of advantages. That's what I was doing. However, let us get to what is important and let's get reading from Ask Biella, questions answered, book 2. Yeah. We need to mention that. We need to get into professional mode, right, Beena?
Yes.
Not having a lot of blah blah and a lot of dither and blather and all sorts of stuff. We need to get right.
We don't do that.
We need
We
to
don't
get
do that.
to it. We need to get right to it. I'll screen share. Oh, gosh, my wife becomes so loud. I will screen share in a moment. I just want to set it up so that I can see Norma's comment. I'll screen share. Sorry.
That's okay.
So loud. So loud.
You
Okay.
allowed. You invited that blah 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 and blah blah blah.
Ah, hello, Norma. Hello, Norma. I'm thrilled you're here, Norma. Sylvia. I'm glad you were drinking and eating. You got to look after yourself now. You got to get after yourself. I told, I said that happens to me too. And usually I get immersed, and then I forget to drink or whatever. So it's important. We need to pay attention to ourselves, not get caught up in immersion. All right, let's go and screen share next. Screen share. There we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah, see, our Facebook activity is picking up considerably, which is good. Again, not because we are looking for fame and status and approval and oh, I got lots of followers. No, I want to share to more. Yes, that is important to me. Not for the status or the ego, but because I feel that what I'm sharing is worthwhile, and particularly about the alternative paradigm, the Moreness paradigm. Yes, not superiority paradigm, not the usual. When there's an awareness and a realization that it is possible, then we can start creating our own. You don't have to get into my bubble, make your own bubble. But the key point is you don't need that conventional bubble. Absolutely do not. Yeah? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over yesterday's article again. It's such a huge article, and there's so much in it that we didn't quite get the fullness of it yesterday. And although, yeah, all right, let's read it again. Can you read, Beena? Is it clear for you, or should I read? I mean,
I know it. I can.
Okay, go ahead.
Our lot in life. I'm confused about reducing wants to nothing. Dear M, the idea and conception of reducing wants to nothing is tricky. It's certainly a generalization. A common belief is should, as I see things. We can want nothing except appropriateness, except learning and growth. Those aren't really wants, but intents. And also, I think those come hardwired. They are our lot in life, our fate, destiny, or however one wants to see it. Whether we want to or not, we will be forced to learn. So, in those aspects, it's simply going with it or not. And yes, most certainly, I see the difference between want and intent. To me, there is intent, just intent by itself as a universal force, like gravity. It simply exists. It's a fact in the universe as far as I'm concerned. This universal intent is the intent to awareness, the intent to self realization, to self awareness, to self knowing in its most complete sense. It's thus one could say an intent to transcendence. That intent is one of transcending the limitation of divided self, of ego, and limited consciousness, in other words. We have to transcend ourselves in order to become one. We have to transcend the concept of self, the concept of one, the concept of individuation. We have to transcend the words themselves, transcend language and thought. We have to transcend the very concept of being. Then only can we transcend into being. Then only can we fully merge, attune, and align with universal intent, which really is the energy that is the universe. All matter is simply temporary transformed energy, temporarily transformed energy. To me, the energy that is the universe has an intent. Therefore, it is intent. When I capitalize intent, that is usually when what I am referring to or connecting to. My personal intent is like a tiny fragment that has become separated and is trying to reconnect. It's a minuscule piece of what intent that is universal energy, of that intent that is universal energy. Wants that matter. Please scroll
I,
a bit. My
I
screen
saw
is
in
a
a
bit
second.
short. A tiny fragment which has become. Okay.
It's once that matter. You read that.
Yes. Wants that matter. Our every instinct screams wanting is right. And yet, to get back to wants, I suppose that when it comes to wanting, we can separate into abstract wants and material or literal wants. But it's about neediness also. It's a tricky perspective. We kind of have to learn to want without wanting, much like believe without believing. Language is limited here. If I'm wanting to get out of depression, for instance, in a limited sense, if it's a pure reactive want, then it could blind me to the valuable lessons I may be needing to learn. So it's not wanting in itself. That is the problem. But the automatic and choiceless wanting, not wanting anything, is actually an entire philosophy all by itself. It stems from or is rooted in the awareness of the limited sensibility of wants. That's where the key to not wanting resides. For me, it was that excruciating understanding my personal wants might be and are likely to be flawed because I don't know everything. Not might, but were most likely to be so in the grand scheme, in the overall life context. My wants, our wants, as limited beings, are untrustworthy. This is why unhooking from them is so imperative. But how? We want to insist by force of circumstance. But that is another conception detailed with elsewhere. How we are.
1 second. 1 second.
To
Let's
not
that last section again. This
okay.
unhooking from them, in other words, our wants. This is why unhooking from our wants is so imperative. But how we want to insist by force of circumstance.
Mhm.
How? But that's another conception dealt with elsewhere.
Okay. How we are. To not suffer, to not waste time and energy. One could say are not wants really. They are simply the way we are. To me, a want is an added thing to what we are. Need is different to want also. If we need something, we go about acquiring it without wanting. Wanting has a desperation to it, a neediness. We can need something without being needy. Now, yes, much of this is because of the nature of the word want.
Let me scroll. Right?
Yes. This is a case where we are transcending a word. We have to come to know what we mean by it, and we have to come to know the word and its use in this context and manner is limited. If we get to bog down in precise definitions, we will lose the inordinate value of what we so easily grasp intuitively and knew with our silent knowledge. When we first encountered this concept, okay, and knew with our silent knowledge when we first encountered this concept. That is what we need to hold on to, that innate sensibility we know that lies in the heart of this apparent paradox, this seeming contradiction. Thus, we learn also to not only not want, but also to learn to want without wanting. It's an exquisite business. It's to me the sophisticated beginnings of transcendence. I love the word transcendence. By the way, one of my first life goal words. Oh, it is still blurred for me, sir, a bit.
All right.
It is a bit blurred for me.
Okay, I'll read the next paragraph, then you go to the next one.
Yes, please. Thanks.
Inalienable wants. In one way, if one thinks about it, we can't really want to feel joy. It's kind of like setting up breathing as a want. It's just a condition of living. I mean, yes, of course, we can want it in one sense, but in another, it's a redundancy. The key also with wants is dependency. Yes, there are some things we do want, but we cut those to the absolute minimum, to nothing thus, even life. We cut out even wanting life. But, my inner aspects scream an alarm. Not want life itself? What? That is silly, absurd, ridiculous. I asked them calmly, but is it really? Is it really? I think I was adding that. What? But is it really? Is it really? They pause, sensing a trick, feeling my sincere earnestness, and knowing from experience, having learned the hard way, that perhaps there is a perspective they have not considered. Oh, bless me, bless me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That felt pretty good. It was a good sneeze. That was a very good sneeze. That was very good indeed. So, excuse me there. I'll start again there. I asked him calmly, but is it really ridiculous to cut out wanting life? They paused, sensing a trick, feeling my sincere earnestness, and knowing from experience, having learned the hard way, that perhaps there is a perspective they have not considered, a perspective they have not yet come into contact with. They relent, the pressure abates. Still cautious, but now open, they ask. But how could it make sense to not want life itself? But how could it make sense to not want life itself? By considering what we don't want more, I say gravely. This scares them a bit. They feel the momentousness of that statement in my feeling, the unremitting sobriety of that consideration. This does make sense to me now, Beena. I was having a problem with this yesterday, but maybe I was just tired. But if I don't want something, and there's something else that I don't want more, oh, okay. You see? It makes complete sense. It's correct as it's written. I thought it wasn't clear, but it makes sense, right? For you,
Yes.
Norma. What about for you? By considering what we don't want more, hmm? Don't want. They are afraid to ask. This is an awful truth. They know. This is an awful truth. They know. They don't like awful truths. I think that's a comma there. This is an awful truth. They know. They don't like awful truths, but they have come to learn the awesome necessity of learning to deal with awesome truth, learning to face and deal with truth. They know they can only shirk the task as a means to gather their energy. They can only avoid not dealing with an awful truth while they gather their armies of honesty, while they marshal the resources of truth. It's an unpleasant business. They think of it as war, unpleasant in the extreme, but in this case, they know these aspects of mine. They know it's merely a way of approach. It's really nothing like war, but it makes them feel brave, feel resolved. It emboldens them, hardens them. It braces them for what is to come. And they know from past experience when they overreact this way, when they over prepare, then the actual awful truth turns out to be no big deal in the end. In the virtual world of the aspects of ourselves, everything tends to be relative. Uh, it's an abstract world. Everything is relative in the abstract. They have come to know this, to use it to their advantage. Now they ask again. Ask as mighty conquerors of seemingly and so-called awful truths. They ask what exactly could be worse than, and here's the problem. It's not what's worse than living life. It's what's worse than death. That's where it falls. Right? What could be worse than death? Causing horror, I say, horrifying them, as they instantly put it together. They don't have much initiative, our aspects, and no imagination, but they are quick, very, very quick, at putting things together once presented to them. 1 second. It is inner aspects. Yeah. Okay. Yes, yes, they are drawing the inevitable conclusions. If our living were to cause horror, it would be untenable. They tend to get formal under stress. My aspect. We could not countenance them. They also tend to become somewhat self-righteous. They have to be closely watched, these aspects. So, I ask, not wanting to let them off without consolidating, without locking in the new perspective. It has to be solid. They are the ultimate bureaucrats, these aspects. Adding inner aspects here, just to remind that the inner aspects. They will always be diligent in looking for a loophole, and they are expert at finding any flaw. Oh, oh. See, there's a little gap there, and so I thought it was them and. They demand airtight perspectives before adopting them. Yes, it's very important. They change only under protest. It is their way. There is safety in the continuity of sameness. Change is dangerous. Change is an unknown. They need conclusive reasons to change. These aspects need to be leveraged to change. Yes, they absolutely has to. These aspects of ours need to be leveraged to change. Oh, I ask again, unnecessarily. They can hold the thought forever if need be. Everything is filed away in that labyrinthine bureaucracy they inhabit. So what is worse than not living to us? Not wanting harm. They reply in unison. It's their mantra. Doing harm. Then they go into fine detail mode. Now it's microscopic print time, their area of expertise, I hear one say. But it has to be substantially more harm than the good of living. Another adds, we have to know for sure. And you know, there are no guarantees. They debate the finer points. I leave them to it. Those are all valid points. The fact that they are debating the means of implementation is enough. They have accepted the truth of the matter. There are some things worse than that. That's the essential truth. This essential truth. Absolutely. I throw at them for good measure. What about manipulation? They put it together in that incredible way of theirs. I do not have to explain much to the aspects. They are masters of it. I do not have to explain much to my aspects. It's not emphasized my. I do not have to explain much to my aspects. They are masters of it. They can construct a point from the absolute minimum of information. Yes, yes, they chorus. We cannot allow manipulation. Therein lies the path to slavery. It's anti-freedom. It's a trap. Anytime we can be manipulated, we have no power. A big concern to their mindset, and rightly so. They are scrupulous and impeccable, these are. They are, however, wholly dependent on information. They are only as good as the information they have access to, much like a computer. Perspective is a particular type of information they are unable to acquire for themselves. It's not hard data, but once they do have perspective, they put it to good use. They connect the dots. They close the circle. Fabulous. Yeah, they are most fabulous. It's through one we can be manipulated. Quote. I should say that before. Quote. It's through one we can be manipulated. Free ones. They are ecstatic. They can see how it all connects, how it all makes sense, how it all fits. This is what they live for, making sense of the world, making sense of it all, making sense of living. They are ecstatic because their conception of living has been expanded. They have become fully aware of just how limited that conception once had been. They had been scared witless at one time. The time when they became aware that what they thought was a complete and tidy understanding of how things work was in fact massively flawed. They had at one time had a cozy and comfortable safety of conception that conventional knowledge had all the answers. They might not have had all the details. The exact details could be attained. But then the complete falsity of that belief at some point became inescapable. The complete falsity of that belief at some point became inescapable. And it had collapsed, leaving them with only the unknown, stark terror for them. It had left them with disorder and chaos. Leaving them with disorder and chaos. It had left them with needing to construct a worldview for themselves, a daunting task. But they had no choice in it. It had been their good fortune or bad luck to be in a host who valued honesty and earnestness, a host who wanted to know and figure out what actually was going on. They had no choice but to come along. But they soon got into the spirit of things as soon as the value was deep. They loved usability, practicality. They loved those because they could make rules about the details. They remained bureaucrats at heart, even though they had come to value freedom. Only in freedom lay true power. This they knew, and this was a big deal to them. Oh, Beena. Thank you, Beena. Uh, Only in freedom lay true power. This they knew, and this was a big deal to them. They had come to understand. Once mean vulnerability. I was going to have you read more, and I got all into it, Beena. Sorry. Anyway, next one.
Oh, I was enjoying that. Yes, I
Let's
was
go. Let's
enjoying
go. Let's
that.
go.
Yes.
Once mean vulnerability. There could be no true freedom if there was the possibility to be manipulated. They understood now about reducing wants to nothing. They understood now about reducing wants to nothing. I want to italicize that. They understood now about reducing wants to nothing. They understood under ordinary circumstances we wanted things like life and joy, but these could never be absolute wants. In the absolute sense, we had to reduce our wants to nothing at all. So we could not ever be manipulated. We would be free, no matter the price it may seem to carry. They'd come to see that the only sensibility was the sensibility of the overall. Sensibility in the context of infinity. Quote, any want is a reduction and limitation of possible reality. Reality. I want to read that quote again. Quote, any want is a reduction and limitation of possible reality. Anyone, very bold. Any want is a reduction and limitation of possible reality. Wow. Biella. P.S. For me, I have so much more on this. I have tried to condense what really is a book into an article. Yes. Okay, so that was great, Beena. The article is good. Article, the chapter, I should say, article. Chapter is good. Very good. Very good indeed. Do we have time? Yes. Let's see if we can do another one. Or if Beena can read. Uh, yes, yes. And if I get my call, while you're reading, that's fine. That's fine. I'll just unmute myself and then you can finish. I'll keep an ear to scroll and then I will stop. Okay. Okay. This is a very interesting chapter. It's very different. You want to read? Can you see me? Is it clear?
Yes, I can see that. Okay. Why is it so hard, scary for people to okay, relatability? Just witnessed a microcosm of what is wrong with the world. A mental flaws article on the third most spoken language in each state after English and Spanish. And then I read the comment, tidal wave of people saying this can't be true because I personally have never heard someone speak that language. My favorites were the people saying that nobody in Ohio speaks German. Anyone? And there you have the world's big attitude problem. If it doesn't happen to me personally, it doesn't exist. You'll also encounter this if or when your car ever breaks down. 10 to 1. The person who stops to help you in driving uh, a broken car or a stupid car. Why is it so hard or scary for people to believe there is a whole big world out there beyond their own limited everyday experience? Most people do the same things day in and day out and encounter the same people day in and day out. Hmm.
Sorry, Beena.
Why
What?
is it so hard? Yeah, I know that. It's okay. Why is it so why is it so hard to believe that that might not be the best way to determine what everyone else in your state or world is doing slash experiencing?
All right. So just
Dear friend,
paraphrase this a little.
yes,
I mean, because it's got a bit broken up there. My friend said
yes,
this. She wrote this to me, yeah, and that
okay,
people were taking it so because they hadn't personally experienced it. It didn't exist. Wow. See
yes,
what we have
yes,
to say about this.
yes. Dear friend, your comments, perspective, and questions connected to an ongoing theme for me. It's a most amazing psychological condition, the condition of the world according to my experience only. And I see one of its major contributors as the shift in media and advertising towards relatability. This has been a deliberate shift in propagating this notion that the way you are is the way to be and is the typical and a standard way. It's an insidious, insidious. It's an insidious, if ingenious way of getting customers to relate to product via identification, and it has resulted in the legitimization and justification of nonsense and the consequent elevation of lowest common denominator. This has led to fostering the belief and validation that the way of being of the overwhelming majority is not only just fine, but cool. The rise in popularity of talentless celebrities is just one outcome. While there are positive benefits to this via increased self confidence and positive self perception, it all has also led to a complete overestimation of the validity of opinions and beliefs. The confusion stems from the association of feeling okay with all opinions and beliefs. Thus, also then being okay by association, regardless of the actual validity of either opinions or way of being. Essentially, after effects of this relatability trend has resulted in an elevation in the perceived validity of being.
one,
which
one,
has translated. Yes.
one moment here. One moment. I want to read this last paragraph before that. This has led to fostering the belief and validation that the way of being of the overwhelming majority is not only just fine, but cool. The rise in popularity of talented celebrities is just one outcome. While there are many, while there are positive benefits to this via increased self-confidence and positive self-perception, it all has also led to a complete overestimation, over overestimation of the validity of individual, validity of uh, typical opinions and beliefs. Yes, uh, typical or common. I didn't want to just say common because common has that other implication, but when it's next to typical, then it doesn't mean common as in hierarchy common. This confusion stems from the association of feeling okay with all opinions and beliefs, regardless of validity. That's what I regardless of actual validity, thus also then being okay by association, thus then also the individual being okay by association, regardless of the actual validity of either opinions or the individual's way of being. Individual's way of being. All right, there we go. Right? That makes it more clear. I wanted to be very clear about this. Yes, very, very clear.
Yes.
All right, so this carry on from here. Regardless of the actual validity of either opinions or the individual's way of being.
Okay. Melfi. Essentially, the after effects of this relatability trend has resulted in an elevation in the perceived validity of being, which has translated into inaccurately perceived perception of opinions and beliefs. Because I'm okay, my opinion and beliefs must also be okay. Okay. It has resulted in a most monumental collective arrogance, but seen exemplified in the Trump. Best seen exemplified in the Trump. Okay. Will you please just scroll?
One second. One second. One second. I don't think I want to actually put Trump in there.
Yes, I was not feeling cool
By
because
uh,
popular leader, any popular leader.
ah,
Okay, yes.
well, it is populism. That's really what it is. It's been around for a long time. Populism phenomenon. Populism is what Trump does,
Okay,
but it's not
okay,
Trump. I don't want to just isolate him because it's Khan. Khan. He's the same there by you. Yeah? Populism. That's what
exactly,
populism is when you appeal to the wants and likes and desires and fears of the general population and not really be
exactly.
cunning and full of merit. You're just appeasing what they want. And of course, the general population isn't known for its wisdom. Yes.
Yes, yes.
And that's why you end up with a mess when you appeal to them. That's one of the
Okay,
problems,
best seen except,
by the
sorry.
just a little bit of a by the by there. They said in
Mhm.
democracy you've got mob rule, and the mob is always wrong.
Yes,
Excess breeds.
yes.
Continue being.
Okay, excess breeds excess. But on the bright side, the long-term positivity is that access inevitably leads to excess. And When the bubble bursts, in this regard, there is going to be much egged countenance. And the remedy to avoid such, and it will be public, is to do more due diligence and research. Investigation and caution concerning opinions and beliefs will become a norm. For the arrogant, preservation is a huge deal. Extreme embarrassments and humiliations are monumental events and are never forgotten, and much effort is made to ensure non-repetition. False celebrity is the ultimate troll, and just like online trolls, eventually their silliness exposes silliness resulting from ego and force a re-evaluation and restructuring of behavior in order to deal with the trolling. And having once been caught by a troll, it results in huge shifts of behavior to avoid this devastation repeating. So, all in all, to me, it's a positive development. There needs to be a gross elevation before the gross drop. It's only through a dramatic difference that an impression is made on other side, otherwise self-obsessed awareness. I often see the question asked, what would you do if president for a day? I have many answers, but one non-obvious one would be to ban advertising besides the reasons above. There are many more. But on the positive side, if one is paying attention, advertising, when viewed abstractly as a symbolic representation of attitude, perception, and values in a most excellent measure for getting a gauge on inadvertent influence. Not the influence of being persuaded to buy the product, but the influence of the values and attitudes that are subtly also being sold. It's a constant reminder to me to live with deliberate awareness, to discern and evaluate everything, to accept nothing without examination, to never be swept up in the subtle yet powerful current of the accumulation of minutiae. If we don't pay attention, it's all too easy to miss the micro changes and to assume they are trivial and meaningless. But when added together and when the overall pattern is thus discerned, it's a big deal indeed. Advertising is a window into such changes. Besides being an abstract oracle, a mechanism whereby our subconscious can find symbolic resonance with what is important, but not yet in conscious awareness. A fantastic tool if used in this way. But there are many other tools that serve just as well. Collective denial.
Well, before you read the quotes, Beena, just say quote and then read the quote. Quote.
Okay. Collective denial. Quote. It's disturbing if you ask me. It feels like in some ways we are going to back in time. Like if you deny it, it doesn't exist. In the age of information, I find it mind-boggling. Oh wow. Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay, I want to read this again. Sorry. Quote, it's disturbing if you ask me. Collective denial is disturbing if you ask me. It feels like, in some ways, we are going back in time. Like, if you deny it, it doesn't exist. In the age of information, I find it mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Wow.
So back in the
Okay.
day, way back when, you read stories, people would deny things believing if they denied it, it didn't exist. And that's why she says it feels in some way we're going back in time. Like if you deny it, it doesn't exist. In the age of information, where you have clearness to this, clear evidence, it's mind-boggling. It is. It is. And this isn't actually a quote. I know it was put as a quote, but actually this is a continuation of the conversation with my friend. So,
Okay. Okay.
well, I adjusted it there, but it's nice to read the quotes though, to say quote and that because if you think of the audio, it's very helpful. Yes.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yes.
unless we
Okay.
have different
It's
voice
very
for quotes, which we find them.
it's a response to being overwhelmed, a reluctance to bite the bullet and make the effort to get caught up. This mindset, essentially, today's conservative mindset. Wow, today's conservative. We assume we are so modern and all of there. Okay, this mindset, essentially, today's conservative mindset knows that the changes are here to stay. The genie is out of the bottle, but they don't want to accept this inevitability. So they are making effort they can to
Yep.
retard the
So they'll
inevitable. Sorry?
read from So They Are Making again.
Okay, so they are making every effort they can to retard the inevitable, to hang on to the status quo, one in which, in their minds, they still have some legitimacy and aren't the dinosaurs of being, okay, and aren't the dinosaurs of being that they know deep down they are. The modern age and the online awareness that are inescapable have made this clear. But the root of it all is the unwillingness to face the awful truth. And the most awful of awful truth is that their idea, their ego idea of having some sort of validity and specialness, etc., is one that has been proven over and over to be completely false. No longer can they even justify anything of their being. Their parenting, their adulthood, their political, social, spiritual, religious views, all these and more have not only been called into question in radical ways, but there has been ample demonstration and proof that these old views are simply unsustainable.
It's a very big existential crisis. The internet has led to posts and forums and comments, etc., which are showing that these old views are simply unsustainable. They just don't work anymore. But now this is what you've been taught, and this is your conditioning, your should, you're supposed to, your anchor. And now, well, it doesn't really work. It's all nonsense. And then these people are completely lost, right? And they don't want to learn new. And as a result, they try and create these false justifications. It's a big, 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 big business. Yeah. And
Wow.
here we come to the point. Biella says it. It's a huge
Okay.
problem. That's why in our modern internet age, which is really a progressive age, we've had an upsurge of conservatism because it's those old guard, right? The people that my age and older who refuse to change, who are doing this like this death grasp, this death surge. They're so afraid that they want to re-entrench and validate their old ways, which they know aren't valid, but validate them via popularity. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to put that in as a quote. Keep going, keep going.
There has not necessarily been a replacement, and that is the problem. There is clear knowledge of wrongness when it comes to most of what was once held as truth and value, but there is a void in terms of where to go. This void is what is lending support for the resistance to change. If it's all wrong, but there is nowhere to go, then I have to hold on to what at least worked for 1,000 of years. Fear of the unknown is an incredible force, is an incredible force. This mindset would rather cling to the known, regardless of how flawed, than embrace the unknown. It's tough times for these mindsets. But of course, the solutions, resolutions, and options are all out there and available. And at some point, those will make their way into the mainstream consciousness. What is radical today is tomorrow's cool. And in the grand scheme, it's a good thing. The radical needs to prove itself. needs to show it works before becoming commonly accepted. And in this time of great, massive, radical change, the most momentous by orders of uh,
Magnitude.
okay, just scroll as much as you can. So then now we start. Yes. Okay.
Did you start the long-term good already?
No.
Oh,
Yes. Okay. Just said.
it's not.
In order. Okay. Momentous by orders of magnitude. In historical term, it's especially imperative that new ideas, concepts, and paradigms show and prove their legitimacy and value. Thus, to me, the excessive rise of the ridiculous conservative mindset is a necessary outflow and reaction to the overall massive fundamental changes that are happening. And the only way to appease and transform this rise is to provide real value to fill that current void when it comes to how to be long-term good. It really is almost good to me. There is no going back now when it comes to the information age, the connected age. The greater majority of people embrace it all, and that majority will prevail when it comes to the new ways of being that are now developing. To me, it's our ethical responsibility to thus make efforts to emphasize the positive, to be unrelentingly positive. Only through this unrelenting positivity can we shift the focus and thereby combat the negativity that results from fear of change, which is really just fear of the unknown. Through unrelenting positivity, we can shift the focus to possibilities and from possibilities to probabilities. Familiarization is the most powerful tool for dealing with fear of the unknown. And the more we are positive, the more those fears are assuaged. Is this the pronunciation for this word?
Which word?
The more those fears are assuaged,
Assuaged. Assuaged.
assuaged. Okay, yes. I was remembering that, but okay. Thank you. The more those fears are assuaged and replaced with positive options, to me, this is a responsibility to simply be positive, not to provide options. Through positivity, we counteract and prevent the passing on and spreading of the infectious disease of negativity, and instead counteract this with the spreading of positivity, which happily is also uh, infectious. Thus, to be, if one is a good person, it's our responsibility and an ethical imperative to be positive, unrelentingly positive. For when we relent and give in to negativity, gains are lost. Good people are continually asking, but what can I do? It's usually asked from a, you have to scroll, sir.
I will in a moment. Uh,
Okay.
I said to add some things. Bit of editing. Only through this.
Okay.
I don't want to read.
Okay.
I will get there in a
Through
moment.
unrelenting.
No. It's
Okay.
in a moment. And now we will.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
You want me to read or you want to read?
No, you keep reading. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Though.
Through pos Okay. Through positivity, we counteract and prevent the passing on and spreading of the infectious disease of negativity, and instead counteract this with the spreading of positivity, which happily is also infectious. Thus, to be, if one is a good person, it's our responsibility and an ethical imperative to be positive, unrelentingly positive. For what, for when we relent and give into negativity even for a moment, then so much of the gains are lost. Good people are continually asking, but what can I do? It's usually asked from a perspective of somewhat hopelessness, an implication that the problems of the world are too great to deal with. But of course, they aren't. Just like with all infectious diseases, negativity relies on a culture of spreading, it. And when that chain is broken by even just one individual, the cumulative exponential downstream infections are eliminated. Wow. That's even one person can make a huge, huge difference if they do not participate in the passing on and spreading of an infectious disease. And negativity is indeed just that, a highly infectious disease. And when we see it for what it truly is, we can deal with it. We come to see that as good people, it's our ethical responsibility to be positive. Being positive, applying unrelenting positivity of being is thus to me essential. It's something I have to do. How can I not? Through unrelenting positivity, I not only combat the disease of negativity, but I also implement positivity. And positivity is also contagious. And what better way to stop and eradicate the contagious of negativity? Being positive is therefore to me something an individual can do, something that can make a massive, massive difference. Massive difference. Simply think of how those in our lives that are predominantly positive make difference.
I'll scroll in a moment. It can make a difference. Positive. Being positive is therefore to me something an individual can do, something that can make a massive difference. Simply think of how those in our lives who are predominantly positive make a difference. Make a capital D difference. Yeah?
Yes.
Emphasized also. Very good. Oh, look at that. Very positive, Biella. And I said infectious when I meant contagious. I confused this a long time ago for no particularly good reason. Yes, it's also infectious, but really it's contagious because infectious doesn't mean contagious and vice versa. But the issue is contagion, not infection. Yes? It's contagiousness that's the issue. I mean, yeah, okay. Never mind. Power of positivity. Please read me.
Okay. Power of positivity. The marvelous thing which with positivity is that it's not reliant on the underlying positions, beliefs, etc. being accurate. It's a positivity itself, no matter how unsubstantiated, that makes a difference. Negativity, likewise, is influential despite lack of substantiation. Substantiation. So we do not have to have solutions, resolutions, or options. We simply have to insist that they are available. And they certainly, in an easy, and that and that certainly is an easy belief. We simply have to look back in our lives at all the then seemingly insurmountable problem we personally faced and how they were overcome at some point.
And now they
Okay,
will come.
overcome. Yes. At some point, as teenagers, we were all convinced we would never have, okay, relationships, and yet insurmountable problems are usually only a matter of perspective. And
Let me
if there
read that.
is one massive,
Anybody listening is not going to understand what was said there. That's an important point.
okay, yes,
Right.
yes,
Steve, we simply have to look back in our lives at all the then seemingly insurmountable problems we personally faced and how they were overcome. At some point as teenagers, we were all convinced we would never have sex, and yet it happened at some point, right? I mean, this is a very common belief. Not everybody, yes, Beena, but it is
Yes.
99.9% of people. So it was a huge deal for many as teenagers. I know this is a position for you personally and individually that you are fortunately, it's not part of your reality, which is so brilliant about you. But for most people, it is. It's incredible. But I'm making the point, though, that that was the most predominant problem that they thought was insurmountable, and yet it was surmountable. Yes. Yeah. So that's why this has to be there, Beena. It has to be there. I know it's hard for you to read, but it's your brilliance and awesomeness and magic. All right. Insurmountable problem. Please continue from here.
Okay. I thought you were going to. Unsurmountable problems are usually only a matter of perspective. And if there is one massive positive understanding in today's world, it's that the means to solve problem of any kind have grown exponentially. The options available today and the means to solve problem is incredible. If we simply make it the effort to look, we will find ample evidence supposed supposed unsolvable problems being solved. Applying the solutions take time, but that too is happening faster and faster. The media focuses still on the problems because they are more dramatic. But if one looks there is massive and monumental support for an unrelenting positive perspective and positive way of being.
Let me read that again. The
In
media
all,
is still on the problem
yes,
because they are more dramatic. But if one looks, there is massive and monumental support for an unrelentingly, for an unrelenting, positive, unrelentingly positive perspective and positive way of being. Here we go. Please read the last one, the last paragraph.
okay, positive way of being. In all the mass of options available today, to me, there is a most simple way of being, one that has no limitations or drawbacks. All I have to do is one simple thing: be positive.
Be
Biella.
positive.
There are
Yes.
different ways of emphasis, sir.
But it's very important here. I mean, it's capitalized, so it's very crucial to really make sure it's emphasized. For me, to me, says Biella, there is one most simple way of being, one that has no limitations or drawbacks. All I have to do is one simple thing: be positive. I mean, the emphasis here is absolutely crucial. Sorry, I just wanted to super emphasize that. Yeah, it's so simple. All we have to do is be positive. Yeah?
Yes.
I'll just
Yes.
put it in everything there. Be positive. Italics, bold, all caps, everything. Very cool. Very cool. Very, very cool. Brilliant. Brilliant. All right. We'll leave it there today. I know we started late and we're ending early, short run today, but we have lots to do. And I have to make a short list of all the things to do in terms of getting the book published. And there's still a lot to do, even though it's pretty much ready. Um, but this is book two. I'm talking about book one now. I also want to get book two done. And I want to go over book two again from an editing point of view to reread it with Beena, just in our own time, to really make sure that it's clear. Yes, the editing is no problem. All the punctuation and typos and commas, and that's all fine. But like in this now, I'm really listening a bit more carefully to how it would read to somebody who's not familiar with the more complex concepts involved. Yes. We take things like unrelenting positivity or perspective shifting, way of being, all of the stuff. Take it for granted here. We talk about it every day. But if they're new to one and the Ask Biella books, I feel very much uh, for young adults, teenagers, I would have loved to have this book when I was a teenager. Wouldn't you have been?
Hmm.
Yes? Would you know? Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know.
Like
What
I'm not getting it.
if you had this book when you were a teenager? What would that have been for you? What would it have meant anything? Would you have read it? Would it have been valuable? Would it have been useless? What?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But
Absolutely.
of course, there are. I would love to, but there are some conditions, of course, applied here, because I personally feel that everything is happening in my life right on time. So maybe at that when I think of it, so I need to have
Within taking that into consideration, when you said absolutely, would it have been absolutely positive or absolutely negative? I asked either or.
absolutely positive. Absolutely positive. Yes.
When an either or question and we say yes, then it's very confusing, right? We know what we mean, but the questioner doesn't. Yeah. And like
Yes.
I said,
Okay, sir.
I agree with you. Things come at the right time. You can't say I would have. Yeah. No, because if I had it, then I wouldn't have necessarily worked it out for myself. But
Exactly.
maybe from there I would have gone even on to even more. You see what I mean? You don't know.
Yes.
I still feel though that it's the true perspective. I'm not regretting it or lamenting that I didn't have it. I'm simply saying that I'm fairly sure if I had it, because I searched for books like this. I very keenly searched and I just weren't available. Yes. A few started to come out later during that time that I searched very hard. One was Wayne Dyer's first book. Um, uh, well, what was it called now? Your Erroneous Zones. It was a very clever title. It's very basic psychological things, but they just at least put in the context of self improvement. It's very elementary, but still, it was very cool. It was very revolutionary. There was no self improvement, self help section in the library or the bookshop at that time. Think about that, right? I'm
Yeah.
talking about in the 70s. Just think about that. Go to your library, go to your bookstore, and look at the self help, self improvement section. It's half the bookstore, right? There was none. I remember in the little bookstore, there was one on the next block away from when we lived in Sea Point in the high rise center, kind of like Manhattan, right? Just on the very next block, there was a little bookshop, a very narrow store, long down like that, right? And I remember when they cleared out, it was on the very top shelf, and they cleared it out, and there were like 6 books on the shelf, the rest of it empty at first, yes. And Wayne Dyer's book was one of them, and Shakti Gawaine's book on visualizing and manifesting, right? Which that wasn't called manifesting necessarily back then, but I think it was called Positive Visualization. I remember her name. I don't remember the title. Shakti Gawain. It was a huge book at the time. It was very revolutionary and very radical. Oh my God. She's saying you can think stuff and, focus on it. And she used the words intend, and I don't think she used manifest, maybe. But nonetheless, there were a couple others. I don't remember the others. There were, like I said, they were very few and far between. Shakti Gawain's book was a little woo woo for me, and I didn't get much out of it. But Wayne Dyer's book was very cool. It was very valuable. I remember one thing. Most of it was stuff that I'd already kind of figured out, but it was nice to see it in print. But the one thing that was new to me, that stuck with me, and still to this day, was he had a chapter called "The Justice Trap," huh? And he said that we have to be very careful for being concerned with justice. It can trap you into this expectation and need and want. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember how he said it exactly. This is just my understanding now. God, how long ago was that? Decades ago. A lot of decades. Anyway, that if justice is important, it can become over important, and you start to expect, need, want, have to have justice in the entire world, and this is only going to lead to misery. Yes, yes, want justice, but don't get overly caught up in it where it's your only focus and thing, because injustice and unfairness is simply a fact of life, right? And it was a very, very cool insight, because for me, justice was very important at the time. Because anybody who's focused on rightness and goodness, of course, justice is there. But, he was saying, be careful of going to extremes. and getting caught up in it, right? He didn't use the word appropriate, be appropriate with justice, and many other things similarly. But that was my takeaway from it. I should look up that chapter and reread it maybe, or even reread that book. It would be most interesting to see. Like I say, I don't even remember the other chapter titles, but I remember that one, the Justice Trap. It was a cool name too. And also, the book's name was very cool because at that time there were massive studies, and starting in the late '60s already. But they came out. It was just a big deal. A time of newness, exploring, and psychology was a big new thing. At least more popularly so for the regular person. Psychoanalysis came to be something that was suddenly available for the average person. Yeah, was never before. All the stuff, very very, a lot of changes in that time. I mean, we think the internet is a time of revolution, but back then too was massive changes too. And because there were these huge studies, Masters in Houston and Johnson and Masters, I don't know, I forget all they like mixed together, but many of them. There's a big HBO series on it, I believe, on those studies, and they brought out this concept of your erogenous zone, right? And that was a big thing and a big issue, and so he just tweaked that and said your erroneous zone. Very, very clever title. And the book was a huge bestseller. And of course, he went on to be huge, one of the most dominant figures in self improvement and self help. He got very woo woo towards the end, but okay, I mean, it's just where you go. I mean, wasn't not in a negative way. I'm just saying he kind of took it all the way to the end. Um, and it's very interesting. He took some of the ideas that Richard Bach had um, when he came out. I think Richard Bach may have been on that shelf too, even though he wrote stories. He didn't write it specifically as like nonfiction. Anyway, but he had this idea of fluid reality, and it was very cool. I call it fluid reality. They did it, but that things aren't so rigid. And of course, it's an old Buddhist and Vedic idea, but you know, it's always been around. They popularized, brought it to the West. Cool stuff, cool stuff, cool stuff. Sometimes it's very useful to know our history, um, because then you see this transformation and you understand where things are from. Now, when you go further back in history, things of course lose their relevance because they get a little bit diluted and fade out. Yeah, I mean, even the two world wars are starting now to lose their relevance. When I was a kid, people spoke about the war. Even though it was the Second World War, they were speaking about the war. It was very, very influential in people's lives. And even further back than that, right? When I grew up, I'm talking about 60s and 70s now, people even spoke about the Boer War, which happened at the turn of the century, right? 70 years earlier. And that was still an influence, a bigger influence than the Second World War. So really amazing. Yeah. So stuff in history can have a very big effect. Some last longer than others because it led to an enmity between English and Afrikaans people, which I was a negative recipient of. You know, I was discriminated against for speaking English. Can you believe it? Right. It's the most incredible thing. People think all sorts of biases and prejudices. Typically we think, the usual biases and prejudices are things like obviously race and skin color or a particular ethnicity, but I guess that's sort of like, in a way, it was an ethnicity, even though, I'm South African like any of them, you know, 17th generation, that made no difference. In the minority, any minority gets picked upon because of the superiority paradigm. There's an opportunity to feel superior. It's very simple. When you understand superiority paradigm, you understand things like bias and prejudice and racism and all of this negative nonsense, right? It's just people doing what they think they should. It's misguided ignorance. Really sad. Really sad. Wasteful too. Anyhow, fun stuff, fun stuff. So, it to me is very amusing growing up as a very light complexioned person in apartheid South Africa, that I was discriminated against, and I understand discrimination. Well, because of this. It doesn't matter what you discriminated against. That unfairness of it, it's there, So it's very good to be aware of it and to have had that experience. Again, if you choose the circumstances of your birth, and I think we can and do, I certainly chose very, very well. I really did. Chose excellent. Because I learned things like this as a result of the circumstances of my birth. Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool stuff. Very interesting, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited about publishing this book, and I'll mention it and mention more. But I want to start making it a point to mention it. If anybody's keen on reading these books, I'll send them. Yes, free of charge, no problem. I mean, right now I'll send you the file, but once I've published it, I'll actually buy you a copy and send it to you. Yes, at my expense. Yeah? So that you can have your own copy. Now I'm hoping you'll leave a review, but I'll send it simply because you're interested. I mean, I do need reviews, and they're very important. I need at least 50 of them. It's a big deal, reviews. I mean, I don't think many non-writers realize just how important a review is. It's important because if you don't have the minimum, which is the absolute minimum is 10, but really the minimum is 20, the algorithm in Amazon, it won't even regard your book as something that's worthwhile showing to people. So if somebody searches for your book, let's say your book's on woodworking, cabinet making specifically. Yeah? If you've got zero reviews and somebody types in woodworking, cabinet making, your book will not show up on those results, or at least not near anywhere close to the top. And if you're not on that first page, you can forget about it. Your book's not going to sell. Right? And even if you advertise it, Amazon is still reluctant to show it because they say, well, if it's got no reviews, it must be rubbish, and therefore we don't want to have people buying it. And there are a lot of bad books on Amazon. I mean, there are books that people just simply don't even edit. They just write it and they think it's wonderful and they put it up, and it's like every second sentence has got spelling, punctuation, grammar mistakes. Truly, abominably terrible. When you see Grammarly has got all those red lines there, and well, that's what it is. Now, in my case, it's because I have my own system of capitalization and hyphenization, and well, Grammarly has no idea. But still, people do this. So Amazon is aware of this, and they don't want people buying books that aren't any good or any product that's not good, because then it makes people take it out on Amazon. Not Amazon's fault. It's the person who's listing a junk product's fault. They can't check every product. So the reviews really matter. Yeah. And in books, if you want your book to be successful, you need at least 50. At least that's the minimum, not the ideal. If you look at books that are very popular and successful, they have hundreds of reviews. Yeah. But you have to have at least 50 in order to start moving up to that where you can start being at the higher in the search results. And this is directly the algorithm will put you higher in the search results because you have many reviews. Yeah? So it's very interconnected, very related. It's very mathematical and technical. Right? And well, it makes sense. Right? If your book has good reviews and lots of them, it's a good book, and then Amazon wants to promote it for you. Right? And then your book does better. So if you like this book and if you're keen to see it do well, get it from me. And then, when I list it, when it's live, please leave a review. But I'll be happy to send it to anybody in the meantime, and they can read it ahead of time, ahead of publication. And in case you have anything and you spot something, I can still change it. But yeah, that would be very, very helpful and be a really big deal. And be my pleasure to share it as well. I love sharing. And I feel that this book can make a real difference, which is why sharing it is so important. Yes. And if it does well, that would also be a good source of income for me, which, yes, that would be really a benefit and a bonus and be really tremendous too. So, there's that side of it also. Lots of good reasons, lots of good reasons. And it can lead to more too, because in the book there is an email. You can email Biella at at nobelia.org. Right? Biella at nobelia.org. You can email and ask her a question. She'll answer. She will. She will. She will. She will. Anything to add, Beena? Since we have time, I haven't received my phone call yet, so we got some time.
No, but it is just this whole process of capital R reading is transformative in many ways. Not only that, okay, oh yes, your vocabulary and your skills get improved, and you get practice. Of course, you do get practice a lot by doing that. Yes, of course, these are also benefits and huge benefits. Uh, but also, it is giving me something which I was not actually paying attention before. Once you start practicing capital R reading, understanding other people's perspectives start becoming innate to you.
Yes. Yes, Beena. Yes, Beena. Yes, Beena. Yes, Beena. Yes, Beena. It's huge. It's huge.
And it is very huge because you put effort to understand what other person by of course by saying that okay, it does make sense, and it is a big huge point. And when you start seeing from their perspective, this practice go into your mindset, and it is like okay, oh yes, so now every single time when we do that, less and less resistance stays in our being, in our way of being, because we are practicing. Our conscious and our subconscious get like okay, yes, we are comfortable with, we are not going to resist that, and that is actually going to bring more harmony in the world. So when we when we do that, and if we start doing and offering children especially, encourage them to do the capital R reading, it's going to be, they will be more open people. They will become more open adult, open minded, and
Oh,
we're really considering, and yes, and also they'll be more aware
yeah. Oh, it's a
just by doing the capital R reading.
huge skill. It's a huge skill. You know, I mean, this capital R reading, uh, taken to its completeness, is one of the other main programs I have, right? Way-of-Impeccability, which is the core. That's at the bottom of the diamond. And you've got the psychology of superiority paradigm on the one side, and you've got capitalized hearing on the other side, and those lead up to nobleness, nobility, moreness, etc. Right? The Biella series, in other
Yes.
words, as the third
Yes.
main core, right? The apex of that entire diamond pyramid. And it's a very big deal. It's a very, very big deal.
Yes.
And I feel that
Every single.
uh, well, go ahead, Bina.
No, I was just saying. Sorry, I thought that you were done with your sentence. So please continue, and after that, I will share.
Okay. Norma, did the sound come right for you? Norma said, sorry, no sound. Might be the phone trying to charge. Sorry. Yeah, if it's low, then sometimes you don't get connectivity. But I do want to know if there's sound. You know, Bina, we might be hearing each other via Zoom, but we don't really know if others hear us. Maybe that's why, sometimes people don't come because they don't really hear us, or it's choppy. You know what?
Oh,
We need to start watching the lives. Sorry, the replays. You know what I mean? Replaying it afterwards.
yes.
And we need to get it in the mornings. We'll do a habit of looking at the previous day's one and seeing that. But actually, no, that's too late already. I should look at it before I even post it to YouTube. Yeah, when it's finished downloading, before I upload it to YouTube and Substack and wherever, I must just skip through it and play it a little bit and hear if the sound is there. That's maybe why some of them on YouTube get no views, or no, but even if somebody's watching long
I
enough,
can I can hear you. I can hear you on live via Facebook group.
uh,
If I watch that video, so I can hear it.
that was just, when your power goes low, it starts switching off things to save power. So it could be that. All good. Normal will watch it later. All good. Even if you don't watch Norma, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I love that you're here, and I love that you support me. I love your support. It's really beautiful. But don't make it into a need, something that you think you have to do, because then just it becomes stressful. And I'm concerned for you, Norma. I'm concerned for you. to tax your energy. You must be well and good. All right. On that note, anything more to add? There was something I wanted to share when you were saying stuff that you were involved, so they want to interrupt you. About capital R
Oh,
reading, I really feel that way of impeccability and capital H hearing and understanding the superiority paradigm and nobleness, all of that, it's all in Biella's, this Ask Biella, these Ask Biella books, both of them. It's all in there. It's not laid out so precisely and completely as in the courses, but it's there. It's there. It's enough for you to extrapolate and connect to the Moreness of, right? Plus, you have the ability to ask Biella questions and reach out. And
yes,
the link to the website is there where you can go and see this and you can do the programs and courses. And I will at some point publish them. Yes, they very beautiful courses. To publish them in nice. I have big books already, hardcover printed out. They like this
yes,
book, very beautiful, very wonderful. So at some time, but that was just I just published those for my own usage and for the participants, right, who wanted to get those.
yes,
Uh, but at some point, I will publish these, and this
yes,
and something. And at some point, I'd also like to work with uh, formal educators, at least ones who are a little bit more progressive, and take Way of Impeccability and translate it into a junior school. I don't know. I think they call them grade schools here, but I don't know. Grade is all your grades, so I don't know. But anyway, junior schools for younger children to start introducing, to say, how would you teach these concepts to your children? For me, I just talk to children like they're adults. That's just me. And doesn't matter if they don't understand. You keep saying it. At some point, it falls into place, and they're saying it. I remember this happening very specifically, where I had heard my father say, "Black and white, they aren't really colors. Black is the absence of all color, and white is all the colors together." It made no sense to me whatsoever. Right? I mean, I must have heard it when I was, I don't know, 2, 3, who knows what age, right? And it's just like, I just heard it, but I heard it and I remembered it very clearly. And there came a day, oh, now I know what it means. Yeah, just fell into place. Oh, now I know what that means. So things aren't lost. Things aren't lost, right? But that's just me, though. I do feel that, those that are more familiar with teaching younger children, because these are stuff that you want to teach before school. This is stuff you want to have and in school and all the way throughout. Much like language, you teach the basics and then you get a little bit more complicated. The same thing. You teach all of this and then you keep teaching it again and again and again, all the way through school, all the way into college if you want to really get deep on it. Yeah. And because there's always more to it, right, Beena? But I would be very interested to take somebody who teaches English specifically, yes, or any language really, but doesn't have to be, but English would, of course, in this case, and say, when you are designing English, how do you break it down simple? All right, you got the alphabet, but how would you apply it to more complex situation topics like science? How do you teach it simply and then get more complicated? Yeah. I think that would be
yes,
quite marvelous to take Way of Impeccability and have it say for grade 1 and then grade 2 and all the way through all the grades. And then, well, I guess by the time you get to university, you can do the way the course is now. I think you can even do this in high school. And you get to round about typically age 16. I think the majority of 16-year-olds are quite capable of doing and comprehending Way of Impeccability as it is now. Yes, Beena?
yes, yes,
Thing is,
easily.
the thing is, that's kind of late to start establishing your character. By that time, it's already set. See, that's why you have to start this stuff from day go. From when they babies, you got to be talking about this stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Only way to do that, of course, is to have it be a part of your life. Yeah, and And if
Yeah.
you're a family unit, the greater family unit, you know, the parents, the aunties, the uncles, grandma, you know, the greater family unit needs to be have it as part of their vocabulary. If they talking about moreness, impeccability, integrity, discernment, if this is part of their daily language, which is part of way of impeccability, in your dictionary of power, it's specifically said your task is to take those entries into your dictionary of power and apply them in your day-to-day language. Is to make a conscious, deliberate effort to do so. Take the word discernment. Yeah, it's a very common word that most people sort of kind of know, but how many people actually use it in their daily language? Very few. When last did you hear somebody use the word discernment and not online where you heard it physically with your ear? Yeah, not often. See?
No.
Yeah,
No.
it's interesting. But when we start using this language, it changes our brain, of course, because we all want to be honest. We don't want to be phony. And as a result, when you start using it, you make it true. Integrity. I can't be talking about integrity and then not having it, not behaving with integrity. It's just not possible if you at least in some way honest and a good person. Can't happen. So it's a way of implementing self change. It's ridiculously powerful. It's ridiculous. Well, anyway, it'll come up in the lives with on the podcast series. When I go over that, I will be emphasizing it. Yes, yeah, it's very powerful, very powerful. Beena, that makes me think though. We're talking about the dictionary of power in the introduction to the Ask Biella. Maybe we need to put this in that the point of the dictionary of power is not only to give you an idea what's important to you, but also to bring it into your language. I don't know if that becomes like really going into depth too much. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, uh, I'll leave it. I'll leave it as it is. But still, the point I'm making is that if this was something that you really want your kids to learn, and the teachers and adults, older children, they need to have this as part of their vocabulary, their part of their living, and then the kids will pick it up for them. So maybe, introducing way of impeccability and like, 16 more or less, which is what, that would be like ninth, 10th grade, somewhere around there. Or do it the last 2 years of school, 11th, 12th grade. I don't know. Maybe just the first generation, it would be, but then to that, it will trickle down, right? So, yeah. All right. Anyway. It's a nice dream. It's a nice dream. It's a nice dream. All right. Any more to add to this wonderful dream, Beena, or anything?
No, this is really a good point to actually just conclude it, because otherwise it is going to lose the
Yeah.
value. So sometimes it is good. So yes.
I was trying to end early because I wanted to make our to-do list, but we still got a few more minutes, so I'll see you on Zoom in a few minutes. All right?
Yes, I would see. Yes,
Can you? Can you come?
I will try.
All right. All right. Wonderful.
I was just responding to some messages on eBay. I'm just about to. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Norma, for being here. It was as wonderful as always. And again, we are trying our best. Of course, we are going to be live on YouTube also soon, and you can watch it there. And if you watch on YouTube, please do like and subscribe and leave a comment there on YouTube also. It is going to help to train your algorithm for you and for others.
And what did we forget? Tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time.
Yes,
So
yes,
I'll be doing episode 3 of the podcast series, and it's
yes,
going to be focusing on clarity of intent and how to make clarity of intent relevant to children, ages 7 and 9
yes,
specifically, yes, Jill's children. So I'm going to be talking about that.
yes.
So I'm going to be doing what I was talking about. I'm going to be doing it tomorrow.
Oh yes, yes, yes. That would be wonderful. Please, and it's an opportunity. It's not like okay. I'm saying that okay because it's ill, and of course, yeah, it's not even a thought in our mind. But why I'm saying that, I always just make our intent clear. Sil is sharing, and I really, really, really want everyone to grab this opportunity, because it is not something you will get every time and all the time in your life. No, some people really do struggle with that. And just I can give my example. When I was going through a phase, literally for 2 years, I was just banging my head on the table and my computer, and I was not understanding things. I still know and feel that horror, and I was not understanding the word consciousness. And nobody was here to actually give me the precise. Of course, it is a difficult concept, but even just an idea. And that was really puzzling, really stressful for me. I was not able to enlighten, and I was feeling like completely outcast because everyone on internet was talking about the consciousness. And here I was sitting here waiting and searching for something which can actually explain this consciousness to me. That was really a stress. But persistence, of course, when you put yourself on the path and when you insist that I can and I will learn and I will get some opportunity, look how wonderful universe just gave me this opportunity so I can learn and grow. But that was not just a simple thing by happened by like, oh yeah, it's wonderfully just by the abracadabra. It was 2 years of my patience, and I was just trying to understand. Of course, not 2 years entirely for the word consciousness. It was, of course, before that, but it was a very long time for just this word consciousness. And I was trying to understand what they are talking about. It was an alien word for me,
Yeah.
but it feels like that everybody else is aware of it, and I'm the only one who is not aware of it.
Yeah. So remember that time, because this is the mind of the reader that we need to get into. Of that time before even a concept like consciousness, which is like, well, actually consciousness is a very good example. Well, actually, no, I could say it's not a very good example because consciousness is not understood by most people. Yeah, it's why it's not
Yes.
even. Well, maybe today it's starting to be, but for the longest time it was taboo to even study it directly. And they said there's no way you can understand what consciousness is, so don't even try. And like if you went to universities and wanted to research, or you're a professor and said, "I want to," no, they wouldn't let you. They had this prejudice against it. Can't understand what consciousness is. Nonsense. Nonsense. Anyway, the moment you say you can't understand something, what are you saying as an educator, as somebody who's interested in learning and growth? Come on. No. We need to, even if it's not actually possible, we need to at least make the attempt. Because even if we might not get so 100% accurately, the more we try, the closer we get, even though the goal might recede, or, we might never be able to get start traveling at the speed of light. Yes, Einstein says if we travel at the speed of light, our mass is going to be infinite, and therefore we can't travel at the speed of light. But we can get to 99.9%
Yes.
or 90% or 50%. Hey, traveling at 50% the speed of light is still a hell of a lot faster than your jet plane goes, or the average rocket. I mean, it's orders of magnitude more. Yeah. So it's a huge deal. But if you don't make that effort to try, you're never going to get away from where you're at now. So to say, no, it's not understandable, it's just arrogance. It's difficult for you, whoever's in charge, to understand. Don't assume it's so for everybody. It's a horrible mindset. And it's really shocking. And it's why I have a lot of problems with academia, stuff like this. Uh, it is good and serves a lot of good, but there's also a lot of problems. Stuff like You just have to be aware to be able to full balance, apply discernment. All right. You gotta go, Beena. You gotta go. You gotta go. All right. Now, if you that's okay, Beena. Don't stress it. Go sleep, brother. Feel good tomorrow.
No, it is something I'm just feeling like I'm having early symptoms of some
Oh,
feverish thing.
then don't come back. Then don't come back. Then go sleep.
Yes, yes,
Then go
yes.
sleep.
So,
It's very
yes,
important.
okay.
What
Thank you.
What Venus talking about? I just want to emphasize on this. What Venus talking about is pay attention to your energy levels. If you feel unreasonably tired, like, wow, I slept like 8 or 9 or 10 hours last night and I'm still sleepy, go sleep. It's your body's pre-illness warning. Yes. In other words, your body
Yes,
recognizes the barbarians, like you in the castle, right? Your body's the castle. And your guards on the wall say, hey, there are barbarians in the forest. Don't wait until the barbarians are attacking your castle or have come inside the castle before you respond to them. Go and deal with them in the forest. It's a lot simpler. It's a lot easier. It's much more efficient. When you sleep ahead of time, when you feel this extra tiredness that's a bit unreasonable, and that unreasonable part is the big clue here. Right? There's no reason that I should be tired. And then we say, well,
exactly.
but that's the point exactly when you need to rest, right? Because that's sending your troops out to go and deal with the barbarians in the forest. It's preemptive. So preemptive rest is incredibly valuable. I've applied this for a long time in my life, and I used to get lots of colds and flu and stuff because I'm very excessive and I spend all my energy. Just I'm very intense in that way. I have a great lust for life, and I have too little time and too much life. So this happened, but now I paid attention to that, and I do, and I don't get it. I don't get it almost at all anymore, which is really great. Right? So it's very important what Beena is saying. I just want to emphasize that. I know we got to go and we're going to go, but that was important. And come tomorrow morning early. Tomorrow morning, hour and a half earlier, right? Well, I don't know. What's the link? I'll post it. So not on Zoom.
Yes,
And I'm going
yes,
to try
yes.
and share it with a new software that I get. It will allow me to share it live. So I'm going to set all that up. So I got lots of stuff to do, Beena. So our list doesn't really matter because I got a lot of stuff to do anyways. All right. Okay.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now, Sil.
Yes. Bye bye, Beena. Sleep beautifully and dream.
Oh, yes. You too, Sil. You too, Norma.
Dream preemptively and proactively.
Yes, that's going to be fun.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
And meeting and meeting.